Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I created this look right here, testing new products, okay? Well, new to me, and also gave you a little story time of my labor and delivery story in honor of Mother's Day. I did have my daughter almost 5 years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday. And I want to put a disclaimer out that, there are women that have experienced, miscarriage, child loss, and things like that. So if this is going to be a trigger video for you, please click out of that. I am not trying to brag about my labor or anything, or throw in your face how I have a child. So please, if this is going to be a triggering video, click out of it. This is meant to really help like expecting mothers, and I wish that I would have known what I know while I was pregnant, or even before I got pregnant, okay? That would have helped a lot. So yeah, this is just my experience of labor and delivery. Some things might have changed and everyone's experience is different, but this is my story. So let's go ahead and get into this video. So I already kind of have my brows done, but not really. I just put some brow gel, okay? I've been doing my eyebrows a little bit differently, so might as well show it in this video. I use the Got To Be gel to push up my brows, and I just let that dry down, and that's all I've done so far. I'm gonna be using this Tarte C Wink of H2O eye cream, and I'm just gonna pop that underneath. I won't be mentioning every product that I'm using, so it'll be in the description box. It's Mother's Day, and what better way than to talk about my labor and delivery with my daughter. So my daughter is 4, she'll be 5 next month, and the time has just passed by so quick. I had my daughter when I was 22, and yes, she was planned, but not really. We had been trying to have a baby for about a little over a year, and it just wasn't happening for whatever reason. And we had to do, we had to go through like infertility, because technically there was like nothing wrong with me, but the doctor said I wasn't ovulating, and I really wasn't supposed to be pregnant. Like I had to be on what's called Clomid, and I only did like 1 round of it, and then they put you on like a schedule, and I didn't really follow that because I was just very hormonal and like, yeah, bitchy. So I wasn't really, following the directions. And when I went to do my blood work, they told me that I didn't ovulate, and that I was most likely not going to be pregnant. And at that point, I was okay with that because I was like, look, I'm not doing this Clomid stuff again. It made me very hormonal, and I just didn't feel like myself. Well, the reason why I didn't ovulate is because I was already pregnant, y'all. Okay, so that's why the test didn't show up. I was already pregnant and didn't know it. So yeah, fast forward, I find out I'm pregnant, I can do a whole different story time on how I found out I was pregnant. But we're gonna be talking about my labor and delivery. I am about, I'm just gonna say I'm in my 3rd trimester. I had to quit working because I literally almost passed out a couple times while working, and it just scared me, so I just quit. And my husband was supposed to be going on a rotation, so he was going to be leaving anyway, and we were really just on like a time crunch because originally my daughter's due date was at the end of June 29th, and he was supposed to be leaving like in July, but we got it extended to where he could stay until she was at least 6 weeks. So he had his 6-week paternity leave essentially. So at this point I'm having, I believe, weekly checkups with my gynecologist, and we were on a military base, so we had like group checkups, and I really just didn't know what to expect, and they were kind of scaring me because they were telling me that my daughter was measuring bigger, and I definitely didn't want to have a big baby. I wasn't prepared to like have any type of C-section. I didn't have any family I was really speaking to at the time, and you know, I was in no shape to have any type of C-section. Towards the end, you know, you're very irritable, pregnant, or at least I was. Having my daughter, I was just uncomfortable. I was ready for her to come out, counting down the days, and you start having like period cramps almost, and that's just like the beginning of labor-ish. Your body's just preparing for it. So over time, you're gonna get more crampy, and you know, it's just gonna intensify. And I wish somebody would have told me that's really what happens, you know, before you get pregnant, because I had no idea like what really happens when you're pregnant and exactly how, you know, labor goes. And the whole time at this military base, I was told, you know, 4 centimeters is considered active labor and all of that. So I'm thinking, okay, all I gotta do is make it to 4 centimeters and I'm going to get admitted into the hospital, right? So I wanna say it was like 2 weeks until my due date, and I had started to dilate. So I was barely 1 centimeter, okay? Barely. But they asked me if I wanted to get my membrane swept. For those that don't know what a membrane sweep is, they basically, the gynecologist basically goes inside, you know, your little girlfriend, and they stick their fingers up inside of you and they basically loosen the walls of the sac in your cervix. And you know, they go like side to side, and then they push in the middle. Now, when they pushed in the middle, that definitely hurt, especially with me barely being dilated, but you know, it did what it was supposed to do. The doctor did tell me like you might experience like light spotting and cramping, and as soon as I got home from that doctor's appointment, I definitely had that. Now, that appointment was on Monday, okay? And by like the next day, I'm already having like back-to-back cramps or contractions, and I'm just uncomfortable, okay? So I'm not really sure how this whole labor thing works, but they're always saying like, oh, your pain level this, your pain level that, and I have a very low pain tolerance, okay? I'm gonna be using this NATASHA DENONA GLAM face and eye palette. Let's go ahead and swatch these. You have outer corner, transition, smoke, inner corner, and crease. Outer corner, transition, that's kind of dark for a transition, smoke, ooh, inner corner, and then crease. So it's very, very pigmented. So I'm going into transition, but like I was saying, I didn't really know like how much pain is to be expected, and I have a low pain tolerance. So by Wednesday, I head up to the hospital thinking it's time, because I'm like, this hurts and I could barely like sit down, and I was just pretty much uncomfortable. And you know, they turned me away. They were like, it's not time, boo. And they basically just told me to just try to relax, and you know, if they could see that my contractions were pretty intense, but they said they weren't close enough, you know, so they sent me home. I was like 2 centimeters. So from Monday to Wednesday, I already had dilated like a centimeter. That whole day, I'm uncomfortable, taking baths, sitting in the tub to try to alleviate the pain, and bouncing on one of those like ball things. I'm doing that for the past 2 days. And during, you know, all the contractions and everything, you know, you're supposed to do your kick counts and things like that. So it's Friday, and I realize like I haven't been doing my kick counts, okay? So I'm like, all right, usually if I drink something cold, you know, I can feel her move. So I go and I drink some water, ice cold water, and I couldn't feel anything. And you have to understand too, I'm having very strong contractions, back labor, all of that jazz. I'm just uncomfortable all the way around. So the water is not working, right? So I drink some coffee, okay? You're not really supposed to consume coffee, or they advise like you not consume coffee. And you know, but I needed to get her moving, okay? So I do the coffee. Still, I can't feel her. So now I'm freaking out internally, because you know, anything can happen during your pregnancy, okay? Just because you make it to your 2nd trimester doesn't mean you're out of the woods. You can still have like a stillbirth or like miscarriage, right? So I'm going into crease. So I basically have to muster up the strength to tell my husband like, hey, I cannot feel the baby, and you know, we don't know what's going on. So we lived on base, so it was like a 5 to 10 minute drive to get to the hospital. So I get to the hospital and I basically explain like, hey, I can't really feel her. And they asked me my due date and they hooked me up to the monitor, right? Y'all, as soon as they hook me up to the monitor, my belly is jumping like crazy. So now this kid has made me look like a liar, okay? So I now look like a liar because she wasn't moving, and I waited like an hour, okay? I waited like an hour and a half, and at home she was not moving, okay? But as soon as they hook me up to this monitor, she's doing just fine. And my doctor just happened to walk by during all of this. And she basically was like, well, since we're here, let's check to see how much you've dilated. And I really am not trying to do that because it hurts, okay? When you're not dilated a lot, it hurts. They basically put the clamp and open you up, almost like you're getting a pap smear. They open you up and, you know, it's very uncomfortable. So they say the more that you're dilated, the less, you know, pain you feel. But, you know, I wasn't exactly trying to do that, okay? My husband, on the other hand, had told me, you know, if she asks you to get your membrane sweep, definitely do that, right? In my mind, I was like, hell no, I am not doing that again. It's my body, and I don't feel like, I'm already tortured enough with these contractions back to back. It's already hard to walk, it's hard to breathe, and everything like that, right? So the doctor checks me and she tells me that I'm 4 centimeters, okay? And I'm not sure what my husband was doing because he did not really hear that. And I mean, she asked me if I wanted my membrane swept again, and I was like, no ma'am, okay? No ma'am, I don't. And so she told me, you know, I'm 4 centimeters, but it didn't really seem, I'm going into smoke now just to make that a little bit more smoky. My contractions still weren't close enough together, but she did tell me to come back up to the hospital, you know, no later than 1 o'clock, and it was already like 9 in the morning. And you know, she gave us some recommendations on what to do at home to try to get her to come out. And you know, I really, the only thing I was trying to do was relax. So we ended up going on a mile walk. I walked the dogs every day since I quit my job. I would walk a mile. So we went on this trail, and that was the longest mile of my life, okay? Because I literally had to stop every like 2 to 3 minutes because the contractions just were so strong and intense, and I had to catch my breath, and it was just a lot. And meanwhile, my husband wasn't really being patient because he doesn't understand, you know, how bad these contractions are, okay? So he's just thinking I can just push through it. And like I said, y'all, I have a low pain tolerance. So, you know, I was ready to cuss him out, okay? So I was like scared to like go to the hospital. We go, and before we go up there, we stop and grab something to eat, and you know, I announce that I'm going to be getting admitted into the hospital and things like that, right? On like Facebook. So we get to the hospital and they check me and they say, oh, you're not dilated enough. So we're actually, I'm gonna use my finger. We're actually gonna send you home. If you, basically, if I, you know, if my contractions get closer together or if the pain is worse, you know, then for me to come back up to the hospital, right? So I'm annoyed at this point because I was under the impression that I would be getting admitted into the room. I'm already 4 centimeters. And honestly, I really didn't know how to track my contractions. I don't know. I just didn't. I thought I was doing it, but I'm pretty sure I was doing it wrong. Okay. And of course, the contractions get stronger. So I head back up there again, right? And they basically tell me again, like, it's not time. And at that point, they are tired of seeing me, I guess. And they basically tell me that the baby isn't gonna be coming until tomorrow and that I should just go home and get some rest. And unless my water breaks, that is the only way I should come back up there, right? So I'm immediately annoyed. Okay, I'm annoyed that I've spent like half my day at this hospital and they're basically just going to give me some medicine, going into smoke on my lower lash line. They're basically gonna give me some medicine to try to help the contractions, like help with the pain, but I'm still going to feel it essentially. So that's annoying. And at this point, it's after hours, like it's like 5, 6 o'clock, and I have to wait for the pharmacy, and after hour pharmacy hours are horrible, okay? I'm gonna prep my lashes. I'm gonna be taking these pixie lashes from Lash 7, and they're just like really like natural and wispy looking. So anyway, while I'm waiting in the waiting area with my husband, you know, waiting for our number to get called, it is super frustrating. I'm sitting down having these contractions. There's other people waiting for their medication as well. There's a lady with her like 2 kids, and they're basically running wild, and I just want to yell and scream for them to be quiet, but you know, I can't do that. So I'm getting aggravated, and then they finally call my number, and I'm just ready to go home and go to sleep. I blended out the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter, and then I did color correct those bags underneath my eyes and around my mouth. I'm gonna be trying out this Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation. This is the matte one. I hope that this is not too light. This is in the shade 13 Neutral. So yeah, 14 is just a little too warm for me, but if I need to, I'll mix it. But I'm gonna start off with 13. So we are driving home, well, my husband is, and it seems like the longest drive ever. And then on top of that, we have little road bumps in our neighborhood, and he is just driving so slow. I literally had to tell him, like, drive faster. Like, I just want to go home and take this medication. And he's like, well, I'm just trying to, you know, be gentle because, like I was saying, I was having back-to-back contractions. And I was very irritable, okay? Just annoying. I feel so bad for him. Honestly, that was, you know, to be driving me around everywhere, and, you know, he's waiting for his daughter and she is playing games, okay? So I get out the car, big belly and all, okay? And the most inconvenient thing happened. My water broke, okay? Now, everyone's experience with their water breaking is different. This seems very golden. I think this is fine. How people describe it is almost like a balloon popping, or like you pee on yourself. And my experience was it felt like there was a balloon inside of me and it just popped, okay? It didn't hurt or anything. And luckily, I had a pad on, because they don't tell you about all the things that happens to your body while trying to prepare for, you know, birth, okay? So, and, you know, I basically lived in my husband's clothes at this point. So I was wearing one of his favorite sweatpants. So I'm just standing there in the driveway, right outside the car. And I'm like, you've gotta be fucking kidding me, right? I was like, this is not real. And he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, my water just broke. And he was like, are you sure? How do you know? I said, oh, trust me, I know. And then he's like realizing like I'm wearing his sweatpants, and he's like, my sweatpants. He's like, you have ruined them. And so now I am torn between going to take a shower, because usually I think you have like an hour after your water breaks to get to the hospital. So, and at that point, I don't even remember if I had my bag fully packed or not, like my hospital bag. I think I had it packed for the most part, but not really, I don't think. So, but at this point I had to make the decision to either get cleaned up now or just go to the hospital. I was determined to get my room, okay? I was like, let me just get this room. It's the military. You never know, like, if you're gonna get a room or not, because these ladies are having babies left and right. And I just wanted the security of knowing I had my room. So we drive back up to the hospital. You know, adrenaline is rushing. I'm excited, nervous, scared. Just ready to have this baby, okay? So I can barely walk because I'm still having contractions, and they seem, you know, like they're pretty strong, and they've been pretty strong the whole time, okay? But I'm having difficulty walking, and then I realize I'm leaking everywhere, okay? So my husband gets a wheelchair for me and wheels me up to the elevator, and you can just see a trail of basically like fluids up to the elevator, to the labor and delivery. So, y'all, as soon as we get out the elevator, the nurses are already trying to turn us away, okay? They're like, no, we just saw you. You need to go back. Why are you here? We told you not to come back. You just left here. And I'm trying to plead my case. I'm like, look, my water broke, okay? And they basically are like, there's no way your water broke. You just were up here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I know my water broke. And they're really trying to reason with me, asking me, am I sure that I didn't pee on myself and things like that? And I'm like, I know my water broke, okay? And they're like threatening to check me and this and that. I'm like, check me, okay? Please check me. And because I have no reason to lie, and I know my body, okay? As dramatic as I am, I was right, okay? My water did break, and they had to humble themselves, okay? And was like, your water did break, you know, and you know, now that your water has broken, your contractions are going to be a bit stronger. And I promise you guys, as soon as she was talking to me about my contractions, I had the most intense contraction I have had. And it literally felt like a freaking earthquake, and like my whole world was stopping, okay? Because that's how intense it was for me. They go ahead and get me hooked up and fluids going, and you know, all of that. And I told one of my friends, like, hey, I got admitted to the hospital and she wanted to come see me. Basically, I had the shakes, and I didn't even know I was shaking, okay? I didn't even know that that was a thing, but I had uncontrollable shakes and I couldn't even feel them. And then I became so nauseous. Like, I was pretty nauseous the whole day. Like, it felt like I was back in my first trimester. And I was pretty much sick that whole trimester, okay? For the first actual half of my pregnancy, I had morning sickness. And then it went away and I just had raging heartburn. So now the nausea is back and I actually threw up. I didn't really eat that day. I only had a bite of a biscuit. Like, that's all that I had. I really just didn't have an appetite, but I thought to put something in my system, you know, so I'm not gonna be hungry, because you never know, like, how long you're going to be in labor, and you know, they don't feed you, you know, you can't really eat. You can only have like ice and water, if that. So I basically threw up that one bite of my biscuit, and that was, you know, pretty traumatizing for my husband. My friend is there and she sees that I'm shaking, and, you know, tells the nurse to get me a blanket, and I really don't feel cold, but she insists that I need a blanket, and I get a blanket. And I think at this point my husband went home to take our 2 dogs out, and he really didn't want to leave to even do that, but I made him go and to get our bag. I told him the baby's not going to be coming anytime soon. He's still clear. So he left and came back, and it's about, you know, I got admitted around like 9 p.m. By 11 o'clock, I'm having these contractions back to back to back, okay? Now, you know, everybody is different. You know, some people want to do all natural. That was never my wanting, okay? I never wanted to not do it without an epidural. Just because, like I said, I have a low pain tolerance and I just didn't know what to expect. Going into that cream blush. I can't tell if this is a cream. I think it is. The highlighter, that's so pretty, but it's almost like a Super Shock from ColourPop. That's kind of what it feels like. So I asked for them to check to see how much I've dilated, because in my mind, I had a whole plan of like when I wanted to get my epidural. I figured, oh, I was 4 centimeters when I got here. It's been about 2 hours of pain and torture. I should be around like 6 centimeters at the minimum, right? So I asked the nurse to check me, and you know, they're hesitant. They're pretty hesitant on checking me, and explained to me like they won't be able to check me often because now that my water is broken, like I'm susceptible to bacteria getting into my cervix and all that, blah, blah, blah. I'm annoyed, okay? So I'm just like, are you gonna check me or not? Like, I asked you, can you check me? And you're giving me this whole spiel on the risk. And I mean, I understand that, but can you check me or not? So they're like, yes, we'll check you and blah, blah, blah. So they check me, guys, and they tell me that I am still 4 centimeters, okay? So at this point, I'm ready to scream, and it just, you know, wreak havoc. And they're like, yeah, we thought you'd be more dilated as well. And so that's, you know, very encouraging, right? So we actually, since, you know, you're still at 4 centimeters and your contractions are pretty strong, but they're just not, you know, doing anything for you, basically. So it's not enough. So they're like, we want to put you on Pitocin. And Pitocin is basically like a chemical that helps speed up your labor, like your contractions and everything. And so I was like, oh, y'all want to put me in more pain, and I'm already, you know, barely making it as it is, right? So I'm like, nah, y'all can miss me with that Pitocin, okay? Go ahead and give me that epidural, okay? So I got the epidural at 4 centimeters, okay? That was not what I wanted at all, because there's so many horror stories about, you know, your epidural not working and fading and all of this stuff And, you know, they tried to like assure me like the anesthesiologist was really good that they had. As he's given me the epidural, I can't feel anything but these contractions, okay? So, and like I said, I was shaking, okay? So I had no control over that. And like they're asking me to stay still, and I'm just staying still and, you know, just trying to focus on breathing and relaxing and like meditating essentially. Y'all, I should have had music playing, just something to take my mind off of everything, all the contractions. I was basically sitting up in that hospital room, silent, okay, just no noise, period, and just focusing on my contractions, okay? Looking back, I wish I would have just played some music and, you know, tried to get up. I was scared to leave my bed because I'm hooked up to this stuff, and I just can't even imagine like how do I even get up. And I didn't want my husband talking to me, okay? He tried to talk to me and he's like, I'm so sorry that I'm putting you through this, blah, blah, blah. And I don't want to hear it, okay? I just want him to be quiet. I don't even want him looking at me at this point. They do the epidural and they tell me like, oh, you're gonna have a couple contractions until like it kicks in. And I was not expecting that, okay? I thought as soon as you get the epidural that everything is gonna be fine. No. So about 3 contractions later, I realize only half of my body is numb, okay? So I'm like, excuse me, I can still feel this side of my body. So they turn me over and let the epidural go to that side of my body. So now I am completely numb. I can't feel any contractions, and I can't feel any contractions, and I am numb and I am happy. So, you know what I did? I went to sleep, okay? I took my butt to sleep. I was exhausted, and I feel like my body really just needed that break, because after that, I started dilating every hour on the hour, okay? So about 6 hours later, they wake me up, and while I was sleeping, they tilted the bed down so that gravity could like pull the baby out, or help with the baby coming out. So they basically tell me like, hey, you're 10 centimeters. It's gonna be time to push, but we're doing a schedule shift. So you actually won't be delivering for like another hour. Y'all, they're lucky that I had an epidural and couldn't feel it, because if I was 10 centimeters and with no epidural, that baby is coming out now. There's no holding on, there's no waiting. So I'm like, okay, I thought that was strange, you know, that I have to wait to deliver, but whatever. Like I said, I was 22 when I had my daughter, so I didn't know anything, didn't know what to expect, none of that. The doctor that is delivering my daughter is an African guy that I've never met, okay? And so I'm already like completely like shocked that a man is going to be delivering my baby, a man I never met, don't know, and he's about to see all my goods. But you know, at this point, you know, I'm just ready to deliver my daughter. And before I deliver her, they ask me, because it's a military hospital, they do like training and stuff like that. They had like a group of students that needed to like witness a birth. So they had asked me if it was okay if they, you know, watch or whatever. And at this point, I'm already like busted wide open, like everything's just out. And I'm just like, you know, if this is what you guys want to see, have at it. You know, I ended up having the mirror so that I could see my daughter being born, glasses and all, because for me, this was like a once in a lifetime thing. And I really just didn't want to miss any part of it. I'm pushing when they're telling me to push, and you know, I'm watching, you know, what's happening like as I'm pushing, and we are not in sync, right? So I tell them like, hey, we're not in sync, because even though I have my epidural, I can still feel pressure of the contractions at this point, but I have no pain. So then they basically, you know, let me start pushing on my own, which was very difficult because I can't feel anything. So I don't really know what I'm doing. So I had to kind of just like focus. I can see her coming out, and I'm so excited that I literally go, oh my God, like that. And I freaking suck her back in, okay? So all that hard work I just did, and I have to restart. So now the doctors are like annoyed with me and they're like, you need to focus and concentrate and everything. So I'm pushing again, and it's going by faster this time since I know what to do. And I see me pop her head, and then I go see like her shoulders, and then I close my eyes for the rest, okay? So I don't know what it looked like for the rest. And I did have one of my friends that came to like bring me breakfast because she knew I was in the hospital, but I told her like I haven't delivered the baby yet, and you know, she was a part of my delivery. So yeah, shout out to you, Nicole. Nicole was on one side holding my leg, and then my husband was holding the other. And while I'm pushing, they're both crying, and I'm looking at them like they're crazy because I should be the one crying. But you know, baby girl is here. When she was born, like I had my mother-in-law on the phone, and she heard like the whole delivery, and she didn't cry for, I want to say like 5 seconds. And that seemed like the longest 5 seconds of my life. It was very scary, but she ended up crying. They placed her on my chest, and I get to see my daughter for the first time, and I tell her happy birthday and welcome into this world. And you know, that is pretty much how my labor went. And then they, you know, I briefly had her. I didn't have her for long. I had her for like maybe a couple, you know, seconds, because while they're doing that, while they're placing her on me, my husband is cutting the cord and all of that. They ask me if I want to see my placenta, and I kindly decline, okay? I'm like, no thank you, I don't want to see that, right? And the nurse is like, hey, look at this. And I'm like, what is that? They're like, it's your placenta. And I'm like, I told y'all I didn't want to see that, okay? So why are you showing me this, okay? I'm assuming they did that so that I wouldn't, you know, want to have another baby or whatever. But I didn't want to see that. With all of that being said, everybody's birth story is different. You never know like what you're going to go into, but the takeaway, oh, that's pretty, that I learned from my birth story is to listen to my body and don't let these nurses and try to tell you what to do, or you know, the doctors, because you know your body as far as the, you know, when it came to pushing and, you know, being admitted into the hospital. But like I said, I was on a military base, so you know, they really weren't trying to listen to me, which is frustrating when you know something is happening to your body and no one's really taking you seriously. For my lipstick, I'm gonna be taking the Makeup by Mario, the Ultra Suede Cozy Lip Cream in Naked Spice, and applying that on, and it's definitely a moussey lip, and this color is so beautiful. And to set my face, I'm gonna be taking the Jaclyn x Robin All Set Setting Spray. This is my Mother's Day look. So I will say that Charlotte Tilbury foundation actually matches, and I was very surprised because I thought it was going to be too golden, but everything worked together. Yeah, that is my labor and delivery of how my daughter was born almost 5 years ago. That is the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. To all of those expecting, I hope you have a safe pregnancy and a safe labor and delivery, and hopefully my story helped you as to like what to expect, or like what really goes into, you know, the labor part of and delivery of having a baby. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my video and getting ready with me. I will see you guys in my next video.